You're listening to the Law Kong Express newsletter.
This episode may contain adult language and is not intended for those easily offended.
All right, you've been warned. The Law Kong Express finally returns. Finally. On this, the second edition of the Law Kong Express, we're going to talk about my favorite subject, Rosalio's door. We have to talk about his front door and the 37 hours that blood is supposed to be on that door without a witness. We'll take you to a mock trial. We're going to talk a little bit about Vanwee as an expert. And then we're going to order a pizza.
For 37 hours, blood hangs on Junior's door with no witness.
Hey, what do you say we just go back to Rosalio's apartment and let's spend some time in the hallway and talk about some of the things that we can see or some of maybe the conclusions that we can come to. The prosecution story is Zach comes to Rosalio's apartment, knocks on the door, hides in the stairwell, right by those mailboxes. Now, what the state will fail to tell us is, how did Zach even know that Rosalio would have been home? Considering the fact that Rosalio was out on the town taking his kids back to their different mothers. How could Zach have planned this? How would he know when exactly to be at the apartment complex? And then if he was somehow listening to Sadie's conversation, somehow seeing her text, the conversation she was having with Rosalio, he was telling her that he was going to be at Mike Campbell's, not that he was going to be home with another woman. If we believe the state, it's only supposed to take an hour's drive from Mequon to Kenosha. If Zach had left exactly when he stops answering his phone, that meant that he would have been at Junior's apartment 20, 30 minutes waiting in that parking lot for this guy to show up. And the sun wouldn't have been down. But back to the state story. Rosalio is supposed to be struck maybe 2 times in the hallway, and he will be forced back into the apartment. And this is going to be a problem that I will talk about later, about Rosalio getting back into this apartment. And I believe if we look at the door, it's going to tell us that the DA's theories are not correct. So let's take a look at this door. A good look. His door is by a main entrance to the building. He shares that floor with other tenants. His door is just inches from every tenant's mailbox. May 17th is a Sunday night. No one reported seeing blood on May 17th. No one called the cops. No one has come forward as a witness, said, I went out to get a smoke and I saw something on Rosalio's door. I ignored it. So for the entire night of May 17th, we don't have a witness to the stains on Rosalio's door. But wait, there's more. If we believe the prosecution's story, we must believe that blood was on that door for what must be 37 hours or more before one witness will see the blood. And that person just happens to be in a relationship, in her mind, with Rosalio Gutierrez. I want you to think about May 18th and what COVID has meant to these people in this apartment complex. We don't know how it's affected these people's lives. I don't know when people go to work. I don't know if some people just are working from home, if there are people that are just hoping to get unemployment. I don't know what's going on with children. If there are children in this apartment, if people are sharing, duties of watching children, of trying to educate these children during COVID. But those are things that we have to think about. There's no witness for the morning of May 18th that says anything like, I went out to McDonald's. I went out to Dunkin' Donuts. I came back to the apartment and I saw something on his door. We don't have someone saying, on my way to work, I saw. So we really don't have a witness to any blood on the morning of May 18th. There's no witness that shows up that says, I delivered mail to those mailboxes and I saw what was on Rosalio's door. Again, we don't know if, as I said, we don't know if children were more abundant during this time. So we don't know if children were running in that hallway right past his door. We don't know. We don't know if maintenance came through that building, did anything. So as the hours tick by, there's no witness for the afternoon. So I made a kind of a list, and you could probably add to this. There's things I might have missed, and some of these things I have are kind of long shots. But here goes. Here's a list of people that not only could have been in the apartment complex, but could have walked right by Rosalio's door. DHL, UPS, FedEx, Amazon, the post office, a postal work. Think about how people fed themselves, especially during COVID. Uber Eats, Grubhub, DoorDash, Instacart, somebody getting their groceries delivered, Chinese food, Chick-fil-A. How about pizza? We know that pizza can be delivered to this apartment complex. It's just the cops can't figure out how it's done. I don't know where the tenants did their laundry. Did they have to go to a laundromat, or was there anything in the apartment complex and they could have carried their laundry right by Rosalio's door? So a long shot would be a dry cleaner. Someone that actually delivers your dry cleaning, picks it up, brings it back. Cable TV, somebody coming in to repair a cable TV or provide somebody with internet service, especially if they have children or where they're working from home and maybe they need more signal. Here's a real long shot for you, but a diaper service. Maybe somebody that's into cloth diapers, or you probably can think of other things that I'm not thinking about. Again, the hours keep ticking away. People possibly coming back from work, collecting their mail, inches from Rosalio Gutierrez's door. No one witnesses the blood. In the afternoon, in the evening, the blood will be on this door for over 37 hours without a witness. So what I'd like to do now is present to you a little bit of theater. What it would be like if a lawyer actually attacked the door with Correa on the stand.
We now go to the Lock-On Playhouse with special guest star Bobby D as Detective Correa.
We take you live to Wisconsin versus Anderson.
Detective Correa, this exhaustive search you had for Rosalio's body, did you bother to check any other rooms in the apartment complex?
No, we didn't look in any other rooms.
Detective Correa, Zach's van was taken into custody and it was inspected. Could you please tell us how much gas was left in Zachariah Anderson's van? How much was in the tank?
I have no idea how much gas was left in this tank.
Detective Correa, you just said you don't know how much gas was in his tank. How do you know that he had enough gas on May 17th to make it all the way to Kenosha and back that night without stopping at a gas station?
I have no idea if he had enough gas.
Your bloodstain expert came in here, took that stand, and never told the jury that Rosalio had actually died in that apartment. So my question would be, what makes you believe that Rosalio Gutierrez died on May 17th?
Because his phone stopped working.
Detective Correa, what evidence do you have that you've brought to court that proves that my client was in Rosalio Gutierrez's apartment on May 17th?
I don't have any evidence.
Detective Correa, I'd like to turn your attention to Rosalio's front door, that nice maroon door with the stains on them. Could you please tell us the name of the witness that told you they saw the blood on that door on May 17th? Do you need Gravely to mouth the answer to you, or can you answer it by yourself?
There is no witness to the blood on May 17th.
Detective Correa, when you first got on the stand, I gave you a calendar. Could you please refer to that calendar and tell the jury what day falls between May 17th and May 19th?
That would be May 18th. Mr. Canny.
It was also a Monday. So on Monday, May 18th, was there any national emergency called? You know, with all that rain that we had, all that rain that Kenosha was drowned in.
Not a state of emergency.
Detective Correa, was there any type of police action on May 18th that would have required the tenants of the apartment complex to shelter in place, to stay in their apartments? Any reason you can think that the tenants were not allowed to move freely within the apartment complex on May 18th?
I don't know. I can't think of anything.
Detective Correa, can you please tell us, what are those objects hanging right besides Rosalio's door?
Those would be mailboxes.
Detective Correa, could you please tell us who delivers mail to those boxes right next to Rosalio's door? You know, the door there that with all the blood on it, the door that's in plain view in a common area. Please tell us who delivers that mail.
That would be the postman, Mr. Candy.
Detective Correa, with all your exhaustive search for the truth, how many tenants told you they saw that blood on his door, the door that's right next to those mailboxes, in plain view in a common area? Who told you they saw the blood on Rosalio's door on May 18th?
Not one person told me they saw the blood on May 18th.
Detective Correa, how many hours are there in a day?
There are still 24 hours in a day, Mr. Candy.
Detective Correa, about how many hours is it between, let's say, 10 p.m., May the 17th, and May 19th, 11 a.m. in the morning?
I guess it's about 37 hours.
During your investigation, did you find that there was anything like a scaffolding, anything like a tarp that covered Rosalio's door in those 37 hours?
No, there was no evidence of anything covering the door.
Detective Correa, earlier you testified there was no national emergency, so mail should have been delivered. You testified earlier there was no police action, so the tenants should have been able to move freely within the apartment complex. You've just now testified there was nothing to obstruct the view of Rosalio's door, right next to those mailboxes. So why didn't anyone see the blood on his door on May 18th? Just inches from the tenants' mailboxes.
I would have seen it. I have no answer.
How can you say there was blood on that door on May 17th when you can't even prove it was there on the 18th?
It had to be his phone wasn't working.
You don't know when that blood first got on that door, do you?
The 17th, it had to be his fucking phone wasn't working.
No, Detective Correa, you just need it to be the 17th. I have no more questions for this witness.
Okay, I hope you kids learn something. Don't do drugs, and Gravely is a real cocksucker.
All right, well, I hope you got something out of that. I'm not a lawyer, so there might be ways that I'm asking questions. I don't have Gravely here on my shoulder, so, I don't know what would be objected to, but the point is to ask the questions. Even if it gets struck down, you ask those questions in front of a jury. Well, now there's no jury right now except for public opinion. And trying to get people to understand that there is this great abundance of reasonable doubt. The state has never produced the proper timeline. And we know this by the door. We know this when we go inside the door. When we go 5 feet to our left, we find that diffuser. That is an incredible find, that diffuser. The reason that I pushed the door so much more than the diffuser is because the diffuser was not in plain view. The diffuser takes electricity and oil, blah, blah, blah. So that diffuser, it could be the Cinderella story. It could be the one diffuser in the world that can do what Schultz and all these other jackasses think they can, right? That's why I push the door. That's why I would love for you to pound the hell out of Rosalio's door, because that is your best evidence that the state doesn't even have the correct timeline. The state cannot tell you when that blood first appears on that door, a door that's out in the open for anyone to see. Anyone going to those mailboxes can see that door. By no means am I saying it's the diffuser or the door. I want you people to use both, right? I want you to show that there's reasonable doubt in that hallway where the prosecution claims that this assault at first happens. I want you to be able to use that door as reasonable doubt. And again, just 5 feet on the opposite side of that door is more reasonable doubt. Use that diffuser. But don't forget this door, because this door isn't out in the open.
Was there no one else? What would a real expert say about the stains?
I want to spend a little bit of time on Vanwee. It was pretty amazing. Earlier this week, I'm listening to Solomon. After a day of I actually had recorded some things about Vanwee. And he was kind of hitting some of the themes that I was getting ready to put out. And I was like, okay, yeah, there is a problem with him being a blood expert witness, because I'm actually currently reading a book on blood stain analysis, blood spatter. And it really talks about what a blood expert should be able to tell us. Now, there are things that Vanwee will tell the jury, his speculations. But there are the big things that he doesn't tell you. He doesn't tell you specifically that Rosalio died in that apartment. He doesn't tell you specifically if Rosalio died instantly. He doesn't tell you, just the opposite, if Rosalio struggled for hours before he allegedly succumbed. These are the things that a blood expert is supposed to be able to tell you. by, the amount of blood, by the type of spatter, what type of instruments were used. And, to some extent, he does pontificate, blunt objects. One certainly could look at Vanwee as an expert and go, you took a 40-hour class. And yeah, maybe you're a detective for a number of years and you've got some experience. But is that 40-hour class, does that really make you an expert? And I have to look at this as a problem. Because how is it that Kenosha only has this guy that can come in and be the expert? I don't really believe he has the foundation to be considered an expert. I mean, he might understand a little bit more about than the average person, the average police officer. But I can't buy him as an expert. And I can't buy that he was the best person for the job or the only one available. And then it's just finally occurred to me, what happened to the original report? What happened to the original bloodstain pattern expert? Where did that go? There's so many things like not seeing any video of the apartment, just these pictures. And why didn't we hear from the first responders, the guys that were there first on the scene with Sadie? But let's get back to Vanwee. And let's talk about the other problem that I don't hear anyone talking about. He had already seen this case through the lens of Gravely, Correa, Anschutz, So he has actually a vested interest in the outcome. One might believe that he could be impartial, but I think just the fact that somebody could question his impartiality in this is a major issue of him being an expert. We don't let the coach of our favorite football team come back and review the Super Bowl to change the outcome, right? And that's kind of what we're doing here in this scenario. So 2 thumbs down for Vanwee as an expert. Even if he was an expert, he shouldn't have been an expert in this case.
No one with a functioning brain can believe Mr. Anderson is guilty.
All right, so I want to go back to the hallway. And I really want to spend just a few seconds, minutes, with that door next to those mailboxes and kind of talk about some problems that I'm having with the state's theory. Now, I'm not a blood spatter expert. I've only read a couple of chapters, honestly. But I see problems with the state's theories. So I just want to kind of give you my amateur feeling about the state's theories as far as an attack at this front door and why I believe possibly they're just completely wrong on so many levels. When it comes to the door, I could sit here and try to figure out how the blood is around the peephole if Rosalio is standing up. And maybe somebody can make an argument that, well, Rosalio must have got hit in the stomach and he bent over or something. Okay, I'll take that. We could go with that, but how do you explain the fact that Rosalio is supposed to be attacked at that doorway? He's supposed to be essentially pushed through that door. And there doesn't seem to be any blood stains that are smeared. As if Rosalio and, let's just say, Zach didn't hit the door on their way into that building. Can you imagine? 2 men, the size of these men, both men anywhere from 220 pounds to 280 pounds, wrestling in that doorway. And let's say that Rosalio was hit first with a pipe, like a pipe wrench or something stupid, What would his equilibrium be like to make it back into the doorway, through into the apartment without hitting that door? The fact that the door is open, according to Gravely, that door has to be open, But there was no damage to the door itself. Again, two grown men fighting in front of that door. Not only is the blood not speared, but there's no dents in the door. Gravely wants Rosalio to be out in the hallway, like several feet out in the hallway. But that doesn't work because why the hell isn't there any blood on the floor then? When I look at the bottom hinge of the door, I don't particularly like the angle that blood looks like. I don't think that blood was falling. I think that blood was flying up. And again, I'm an amateur. I think at some point, Rosalio is on the ground. That's why there's no blood on the floor. His body is covering the floor. He might fall down to his knees, hands, or he may have gone all the way down to his stomach. I believe at some point, someone was in that apartment with that door open and is clubbing him, caveman style. And that's how you get the blood on the peephole. That's how you get the blood coming up and hitting the hinge on the bottom. Not anything like what the prosecutor's telling us. And when we shut the door from the inside, that nice white door, you see how the blood works. If Rosalio was attacked in the hallway, pushed through that door, how do you explain the fact that there's this do-si-do that happens? In other words, Rosalio and his attacker switch places. Mysteriously, they have to switch places for the blood to be on the door the way it is on the inside. Again, I'm an amateur. I'm looking at this, and all I can see is the energy from this room is going towards the door from the inside. And Rosalio must have made his way out into that, whether he had just had the door open a crack or had the door open a lot. I believe Rosalio at some point is falling to the ground. Maybe he's caught. Maybe somebody catches him and they're just hitting him over the head with like a carpenter's hammer or something of this nature. That's really what I want you to consider, is the fact that the prosecution's story about an attack at that front door doesn't look right. All right. I was going to talk about Zach's van, and particularly actually the Audi, about how watching the closing arguments from Gravely made me think a lot about the vehicle situation and how they make it sound like Zach is so deceptive talking about the Audi. And just as I was getting ready to release this episode, I realized that I had my facts incorrect about the Audi at the time of Zach's arrest. I wanted to make the point that Zach bringing up the Audi while he was being interrogated wasn't a sign of deception. It was actually a sign of him being honest. Because in my mind, I'm still thinking that the car, the Audi itself, would have been with his girlfriend. And so going back to the trial, on day 3 of the trial, I'm reminded that the Audi was actually, at least on May 20th, the Audi was in fact at Zach's property in McQuon. So I've had to edit out a bunch of stuff, and it's humbling, but that's the thing about this trial. There's so much to remember, and unfortunately, there's so many people that seem to be acting far worse, suspiciously, than Zach ever did. So I'm going to lateral the horse and we're going to talk about pizza for a few seconds. I know I keep saying seconds, and it turns out to be minutes. I had a pizza delivered Thursday night. And on the box itself, there's not going to be any label on there that tells you where it was delivered, when it was delivered.
So was this a magic pizza? How the hell did it get there, and when?
But they did send a menu with a receipt that is stapled to the menu, where it tells you all the pertinent information, what company sent it out. The phone number of that company has my address, my home phone number, and of course, all the different things that were ordered that night. So yeah, you got a time, date, stamp, all that good stuff. But let's talk about, what if you couldn't find this receipt? Well, I know how it was ordered, so it's a little easier for me to be the detective on this. I can tell you that it was done through a landline. I can tell you that a credit card was used. So those are two very easy things for the police to have looked at if somebody had come into my home and tried to figure out when that pizza was ordered. Without the receipt, you have my phone records. You have credit card records that you can get access to. And so it's so hard for me to buy that in this day and age, that the police could not figure out where this magical pizza box came from. Now, you can add someone's computer, desktop, using either going to a specific website of a company. They could have used an app on their cell phone. But generally, all those things lead you to would be an email. At the very least, you get some type of confirmation email. Hey, got your order, expected at such and such. And stuff like with Domino's and stuff like that, you get all the tracking software. And so I just can't buy what the state is throwing at us with this pizza. Now, I don't know if either of his children had their own cell phone, or maybe the children could have called their mother up and said, can you order us a pizza and have it sent to our daddy's place? I mean, there are those odd situations. A very odd situation would be that Rosalio actually stopped at a pizza joint, ordered it, but told him, hey, deliver it later tonight. Weird stuff like that happens. But highly unlikely, right? So again, you had his phone, you had a laptop, you look at search histories, you look at emails, because if somebody ordered something online, there should be some record of them wanting your email to send you some type of confirmation, or at the very least a text. And remember, Nettie did not want to go out that night. Nettie wanted to go right to this guy's apartment, so she could have ordered the pizza and had it sent to his place. And I just want to add that when you go into certain weather services and you can see the history of Kenosha, you're not going to see the rain that the police constantly want to talk about. Particularly by the time that Nettie arrives in this apartment area, whether or not she actually makes it to Rosalio's apartment, I don't know. Doesn't matter at this point. The point is that when she's driving around, the rain isn't there. Just recently, you've got a guy who's sitting in jail, suspected of being a serial killer, based solely on pizza crust. So something as mundane as some people think of a pizza box can be incredibly important, you know? To establish timelines, to know whether or not that pizza was actually delivered on May 17th. Or, holy Christ, what if that pizza was actually delivered on May 18th, right? Very important to know these things. But once again, Kenosha, we dropped the ball. All right, that is going to do it for this episode. I hope I can be back sooner. Maybe change a little bit of the format here. I want to remind us all that there are letters that the Anderson family have asked us to produce for them that we all really need to get on the stick and do. Thank you for listening to me, and I wish you all a beautiful, beautiful day. And a further reminder that the alternate corner is going currently through the Zachariah Anderson trial day by day, and you should join him. And nothing looks cooler than a free Zachariah Anderson t-shirt. Buy them, folks. All right, God bless you all, especially the Anderson family, Zach, and to the Warriors. You are amazing people. Good night.
By any chance did you see if there was any pizza left? You don't fuck with about DNA.